probably heard me playing guitar. With this, I taught myself when I was 12 years old. And ever since then, I just kept going and going and going and going. I love playing guitar. I have all sorts of styles I play. One of the favorites that I like to play is, but I don't get often to do it, is blues. You kind of need like another player to play along with you that's good at it too. So, but anyway, I play all kinds of stuff. My name is Peter Constant. I'm from the reserve up north. It's called the Pasquac Cree Nation. Maybe you heard of our hockey team, the Ocean Blizzard.
Yes.
Yeah. And a couple of guys from that organization, you may have heard of them. Is one guy is Jordan Tutu. He's played with Nashville Predators, Detroit Red Wings, Chicago Blackhawks, things. But he used to play with Ocean Blizzard too. So that was a good year for us. We almost made it all the way to the finals, but we made it to the final, but we lost the final by 1 goal. But it is a really cool year to watch the team make. But again, I'm from Pasquac Cree Nation. I'm a born-again believer, which means I believe in Jesus Christ, that He went to the cross and died for my sins. And He rose again the third day to defeat sin and death and the enemy. And that means a lot to me because whenever I go through a hard time, and I know that I am saved through Jesus Christ, that He is with me, and that the enemy does not have power over me to do whatever he wants. He has to go through Jesus first, because Jesus is in my heart. So that gives me comfort. We all go through hard times, even I do, but I know that I'm not alone because I have Jesus in my heart. He's with me, and I take comfort in that. And just to go back a little further, it was my mom that led me to the Lord. I was 7 years old. Before that, my mom and dad did not know the Lord. And in the middle of the nights, I hear them bring home like parties. People would come in the middle of the night and they'd be drinking and smoking and singing songs, like Hank Williams songs and all that kind of stuff. And so that's probably how I got interested in guitar in the first place, is that I saw people actually playing the guitar. Boy, that looks pretty fun. But anyway, at 7, my mom was the one that led me to the Lord, and she explained to me that this guy died on the cross for me for my sins. And I said, wow, why would he do that for me? But she explained that we're all sinners and that we need a Savior. So I understood that, even at that young age. And I'm going, okay, well, he said, and He can save you so that you don't get into trouble with God or and He'll keep you out of trouble, kind of thing. He'll change your life. Okay, I'll accept the Lord. So I got down on my knees, and then after I accepted the Lord, I asked Jesus into my heart. I remember jumping up right away, and I was just so happy. I was running around the house. And my mom's just smiling, going, how do you feel? I'm like, I feel great. Just flying around there. And just to make my testimony really short, of course, when I was younger, I started going to Sunday schools and Bible camps and all that. But it wasn't until I got to my teen years that I started to kind of drift away from the Lord. I was walking with Him still, and I was still going to church. But at the same time, I met these guys that were really good guitar players. And I started hanging out with them, and we were playing songs like from Ozzy Osbourne and even Iron Maiden, all those old kind of bands and stuff. And that became my attraction, playing guitar. And then that's where I slowly started to drift away from the Lord. Eventually, I started playing the bars, and I was playing all these places. And I also, during that time, found out that I had a gift, and that gift was writing music. I could just pick up melodies, and then with those melodies I would write music. With the music I'd play guitar. And eventually we put together a band on our reserve, and we called ourselves Heritage. And we went around and we toured all over the countryside. And we were getting noticed from all these big record producers and companies. And they were about to sign us. The one gig that we did play, and I'd never ever forget, was that we played, back then it was known as the Skydome. I think right now it's Rogers Center, I believe. Yeah. So there's you could fit 50,000 people in there, right? So, and just to backtrack a little, The reason why that happened was I wasn't walking strongly with the Lord, but I still read the Bible and I prayed and I asked Him to watch over me. And one day I asked Him, I said, Lord, you gave me this gift of playing music and writing music. It doesn't make any sense for me to have all this music lying around and it's not doing nothing. So I'm going to ask you. And I asked Him, could you please let me write an album and let it do well? And then we can tour around and put together a band for us. He said, if you do that, and you let us do that for 10 years, then I will serve you. Well, it happened. We started getting we made 2 CDs. These songs are being heard on the radio. And then in the 8th year, that's when we went and played the Rogers Center. And after that, things were starting to change. I could see that the Lord is slowly taking away. What He had promised me was, I'll give you your 10 years. But I could see that things are changing. Then after the 10th year, that's when it happened. Things changed. The band dropped. The main singer took off. And that was it. It is over. And that's just one part of my testimony. A couple of years after that, I did give myself back to the Lord, and I realized He fulfilled His promise. So now it is my turn. So I developed over those years, alcoholism issues, drug abuse issues. But when I gave it all to the Lord, He just took it away like that. For some people it's different. Sometimes He doesn't do that for all people. But for me, He did it. I asked Him, I said, please take this away from me. And He did. Now I work on my home reserve in our church. And I'll share a little bit about that later. But here's one of the songs. After I came back to the Lord, I wrote this song. And you'll see why. Because I want to praise Him now. Praise the Lord, my King. He is greater than anything. He's the light of the world. Praise the Lord, my King. Praise the King on high. When He went on the cross, He died, but He rose up again. Praise the King on high. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Praise my King. Praise the Maker of man. It's with Jesus the rock I stand. I will sing to the Lord. Praise to the Maker of man. Praise to the Savior of all. Free from sin I am standing tall. The Creator of earth. Praise to the Savior of all. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Praise my King. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Praise my King. That one is called Praise to the Lord, by the way.
For myself, I was privileged to grow up in a Christian home. My parents were both believers. I had good Sunday school teachers, and my one set of grandparents especially, they didn't necessarily talk about the Lord all the time, but they lived it. So I like to spend time with them. I would spend time with them like a week at a time, go and stay with them, and just live life with them. They'd take me along to work. But every day that I was with them, they would always start the morning with reading the Bible and talking to God. Every day, they didn't miss, and that left a long-lasting impact in my mind. I never forgot that. And so I understood at a young age, not much about what it means to be a Christian, but I understood that I was a sinner and I needed Jesus to forgive me. And that's about all I understood, as a little girl. But as I grew to understand that more, and I'm still learning to understand what that means and how to live it out. That's a lifelong journey, but it started as a young girl, and I'm really thankful for that opportunity as a young girl, and I'm thankful for young children who get to hear about Jesus at a young age, and it's hard to live it out, especially as a teenager, a young adult. It's really hard, but it's possible. And the older I grow, I understand how desperate my need is for God. Like, as a young Christian, I think, I'm pretty good, I can do this. But the more I get to know God, the more I understand that my heart is broken and sinful, and my thoughts are not always pure, and I really, really need God. And I walk with people, young people. That's who I walk with a lot of, is the young girls and older people, and there's so much brokenness and deep hurts. Like, we try and put on a good front, but we're really hurting deeply inside, and I want to reach out to people and say, and help them. Like, that's my heart, is to help people, but I can't. There's nothing I can do to fix even my own heart, never mind anybody else's heart. So I'm glad to be able to walk with people, but I realize that it's only God that can heal anybody's heart and to bring that freedom, not from brokenness in our life or bad circumstances. That still happens. Hard times still happen a lot, or maybe even more after becoming a Christian. But when God is in your heart, that peace is from within, and you can face those things. So I heard there was a funeral in this area today. I'm not exactly sure who it was, or I didn't know the person, but it reminded me of, when, like, my brother's here too, Kelvin, when our dad was killed in an accident really suddenly. Like, that was the hardest thing in my life. It was so painful, and going through all those emotions of anger, even anger at God, and anger at the other people involved, and anger at all the things that I was going to be missing from that loved one in my life. My dad wasn't going to be there for a lot of things in the future, things that we think of. And I'm just so thankful that emotions that we have, God made us emotional people, and it's not bad. Like, a lot of emotions I feel, I don't like them. I wish I didn't have them, but God gave us emotions, and they're not bad. And all those emotions we can bring to Him. And even if we don't like them, even if it is a wrong emotion, something that isn't healthy, when we bring it to Him, He can redeem it and heal us and make something new and wonderful of it. So as hard as it was the most difficult thing in my life, it's also one of the times where I really, really understood most deeply that God is sovereign. He really is in control, and I can trust Him. And so God has been there for me, and I'm happy to share Him with other people as much as I can. This next song we're going to sing is called Be Unto Your Name, and I really appreciate it. It talks about how, our life here is just a breath. It's just a moment. Sometimes it feels like forever, but it's really, really short, our time here. And so, yeah, we're going to go through hard things, but eternity is coming. And we want to get ready for that time, and to be ready in that right relationship, so that we'll be with God forever, in the presence of God, where there's no more pain, no more tears, no more crying.
We are one, you are forever, Lord of the ages, God before time. We are vapor, you are eternal, love everlasting, reigning next song we're going to sing is Our God Reigns. But before we do that, like part of the ministry that I do now is I'm a pastor at the Riverside Bible Church on our home reserve. I'm an associate pastor because we have a senior pastor couple there. So what I do is I share sermons twice a month on Sundays and twice a month on Wednesdays. I share Bible studies. I also assist Charlene with their youth ministry. And also we go to a place called the Bighetti Youth Center. It's a place like this, but there's a lot of kids that hang around there. And we get the opportunity to, share the gospel, sing songs with them. We do a lot of crafts and coloring. We give a lot of prizes out. The kids really love it when we go there and spend time with them. And we love going to see them too. They're used to us now. When we were first starting out, we got those looks like, who are those guys? Like kind of thing. And now they always ask us, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? So it's always a pleasure to go back there. We're trying to go back an extra day next year because we're only going there once a month. And it was kind of a trial run for the people that were wondering if the youth would be interested in us. And they are, so they gave us an extra day. So now we get to go there 2 times a month. And we're looking forward to that. We also have the seniors ministry.
So Peter works at the care home on the reserve as a spiritual care worker. So a few hours a week, that's part of his job. But as a church, we go there twice a month to sing with them, to visit with them, and to share God's word with them. And there's one little lady that I've really connected with. She's become my kukum. She's from the far north, and she doesn't have family in the PA or on OCN because she came there to receive physical care that she needed, but her family couldn't come with her. And so she's been really lonely there, and I'm glad to be able to connect with her. We actually connected over our watch. We had the same watch, and that's how we connected. And so she's my kukum now, and we just love to see each other and spend time with each other. And so this next song is one of the songs that is a favorite at the care home where we sing.
Yep. Our God reigns.
to the PA OCN was through work. I grew up in the Gladstone area and became a nurse. I took my nursing at Portage or Southport and graduated from ACC. And then I wanted to go to northern Manitoba. That was what was in my heart. But I applied everywhere and got absolutely zero response. And so I talked to God about it and what He wanted me to do. And I ended up seeing an ad in a magazine for Moose Factory, Ontario, which I never heard of. I didn't even know, it didn't really sound like a real place to me. But that's where I ended up. And I just fell in love with the north. I loved the people, the trees, the water, I just loved being there. But I couldn't stay there. I couldn't get a permanent license in Ontario. And so I stayed there as long as I could. And then I didn't want to come back down south. So I applied across northern Canada and ended up in the PA, which I also had never heard of. But I went there and we actually met through singing. So my sister Janice and his cousin George worked together at a store, and they both invited us to get together to form a band to sing for a coffee house event that was happening for our Trappers Festival in the winter. So that's how we met. We didn't even say a word to each other when we first met. But we sang more together after that. The four of us traveled quite a bit and sang in different places. We became friends, and Peter and I married, and George and Janice married, and yeah, it was really neat how God brought us together. And we don't sing together as a band anymore. We live separate places, but maybe we will join again one day. This next song is one that we just heard recently. I don't know exactly how new it is, but it's just a song of adoration to God. That God is worthy to be worshipped. He is the one true God, and He's almighty. And so we just want to praise Him.
Kings and nations tremble at His voice.
during our time before I went to be a pastor at Riverside Bible Church in DePaul, we also, before that, we went to do our training at Miller College of the Bible. That's located near Swift Current, Saskatchewan. Anyone know where Swift Current is? Yeah, okay. It's south from there, about a half an hour south. So when we went there for the first time, we came from the Paw, then we went south, and then we went Regina, Moose Jaw, then we went south of Moose Jaw, then we cut across. Now, I'm a guy who's used to seeing trees and bushes, so when I got to that area, I heard that Moose Jaw has this air base, right? So when we went there, we actually saw a plane flying right beside us, going, oh, that looks cool. But then we cut across to get to Miller College, and this nothing, no trees, and we saw these tumbleweeds flying across, and we see the odd bird here and there, didn't see any animals. And I was just getting scared, oh man, what did they do here? Did they test missiles around here or something? There's nothing here. And finally we hit one town, but it is, I don't know, I forgot the name of that town. But anyway, we hit one town in between Moose Jaw and Miller College. And finally we got close to Miller College, and I couldn't see it. On our GPS it says it's right here. But there were so many hills, like it is in a valley. So when we were coming up, we're going, I don't see anything. Where did it go? Maybe they bombed it or something. But finally we did go over the hill and we saw it. And we go, okay, there it is, right. And that was, it turned out, long story short, that's where we ended up going for 3 years. We got our degrees in biblical studies, and we also got our 4th year degree in strategic ministries, which involves a lot of counseling, self-care, and children's ministry, things like that. So we really appreciated the training that we got from that school. Here's a song. You're going to recognize the lyrics, but the melody will be different. This is something as a songwriter, and I hear different melodies sometimes with songs. So this is one of them. You'll recognize the lyrics.
I Never heard that kind of rendition before. It's
No.
pretty.
It's beautiful.
Did you guys do that? Create that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, here's a couple of more songs we're going to sing. They might be familiar to you. One's a verse, and the other one's just an old classic that I like to sing. We also sing these at the care home as well. And the people love to sing along to this one. The first one is, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength," and then we transition over to "Freely, Freely." Okay.
If you know what, sing along.
Here's another song that I wrote. We bought a couple of CDs if you're interested in purchasing one. We sell them for cheap, like $10. And these are all original songs that I wrote. There's about 12 of them on there. I sang one earlier that's called Praise to the Lord, and here's another one that's called I Will Always Love You, Lord. Give me wings so I can fly, just like an eagle soars on high. Give me sight so I can see. You give me words so I can speak, so I can praise you, Lord my King. More than light that shines in me.
It was it.
That was it.
That's it.